What is up, my friends? We are back for another episode of the Anfield Agenda podcast. I am me, and I'm also delighted to say I'm joined by Mr. Conor Crosby and Mr. Chris Stonage. Gents, we have a lot to get through. I'm going to forgo the pleasantries, no time to ask how you are, because quite frankly, the audience don't care. We're going to get straight into what it says on the programme, and I'll say, Chris, Michael Oliver -WTF. So, let's get into the two big decisions straight away. And I know we could be talking about Chris Kavanagh here, but let's get straight to the VAR hub, because that's where I think the crux of this problem is, Mr. Stonage. So let's talk about the penalty incident first. Any complaints when we seen it back?
On a replay, no, to be honest. Like if it were the other way around, I would have wanted a penalty. Any sort of contact in the box at that sort of moment can cause it. And I think it's a pretty much fair enough.
It's the second motion, isn't it? It's the second part.
It was the knee clip, really. I mean, when I saw it was just like a little toe, I was a little bit miffed. But as soon as I saw the second bit of contact, I think I 100% agree, was a penalty.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Didn't see it in real time, wasn't sure. Seen it back, I thought we got away with it when it was the foot, and then the knee follows through, like you said, and I just thought, yeah, I can understand this, to be fair. But he sent the ref to the monitor for that, so ref got to make up his own mind. The problem I have here, Chris, is when Virgil van Dijk went up the other end, and it must be said, against the run of play, scored a header. 13 seconds later, and I thank Arner for this information because I didn't spot it in real time, but 13 seconds later, the linesman suddenly has a flash of inspiration, just like divine intervention hits him, and he decides 13 seconds after the ball's in the net that suddenly Andy Robertson's in an offside position. Now, I wonder, did he come up to that conclusion on his own? And after that, it's a shit show, really, for me, Chris, because you look at it and you think, the two things we normally look for here is he in the keeper's eye line? The answer is categorically no. Does he impede the goalkeeper in any way? No. Then the VAR hub, or excuse me, the Premier League puts out the tweet to say that it was a motion. The motion was to get out of the way. The motion was to duck and get out of the way. This is a joke, mate. It's a joke. And I said all week building up to this game, Oliver's going to have a say in it. And he did. He absolutely shafted us again.
Yeah, I remember you saying in the previous podcast, like, and personally, I'm one to say that all referees are equally as bad as each other, but my goodness me, like this was just like a ludicrous decision. Not only, as you mentioned, not only did he not impact the eye line, not only did he not impact the position of any of the City players, including the goalkeeper specifically. Like, I don't understand. Have you seen, in terms of this sort of scenario, I don't think I've ever seen it happen. Like, I understand if a player is completely in the goalkeeper's eye line, that's okay. But when you've got a player who's like literally nowhere near, ducked to get out of the way of the ball, by the way, and he wasn't actually that close to the ball, it wouldn't have hit him specifically. But like, there's no way that this should be allowed to stand. And that, as I say, I think Man City were complete deserved winners yesterday.
Agreed.
Like, completely deserved. But you never know how much a moment like that completely can swing a game and momentum wise. And I think that's basically, we don't know what would have happened if that goal had stood.
Yeah, look, it is important, Conor, that, as Chris said, we acknowledge that Manchester City were the better team. Manchester City most likely would have won that game. But that being said, it is we have comparables, Conor, to look at this. So we've seen Bernardo Silva's goal last season where he was literally wrestling with the goalkeeper before the ball came in, and somehow that goal still stands. And look, I promise you, mate, I've looked at this and I've tried to look at it with unbiased eyes, and I just can't see the reason for ruling the goal out other than Michael Oliver wanting to stick his nose in.
Yeah, like even this season, like against Atletico Madrid, they scored a goal against us. I can't remember who scored the goal or who was standing in the way, but there was literally a player in front of Alisson in his line of sight. The ball rolled past into the corner and it was counted as a goal. So, like, no consistency on it. And like you said, the Bernardo Silva incident last season as well, but it's just a joke, really, isn't it? Like, the refereeing in this league, like we say it every week, but it is just scandalous. And Michael Oliver and Manchester City in particular seem to just have this thing, don't they? Like, not saying there is anything there. Allegedly, there might be, but I don't know. It's a farce, really, isn't it?
So I look to see the pundits in these scenarios to see if I have looked at it with Liverpool bias eyes. Wayne Rooney said it should have been a goal. Danny Murphy should have been a goal. Go on to Ref Watch. Dermot Gallagher is trying to jump through some mental gymnastic hoops to try and figure out a way to back up the refs. Even he's struggling. And Jay Bothroyd, Chris, then comes in and says it should have been a goal. So everybody with common sense looks at it and thinks that should have been a goal.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I want to say as well, like, these things come and go for you, but when it happens, and you get potentially cheated out of a point, maybe even 3, who knows? It can be
let's use the word
extremely
again.
frustrating. And that's it. That's the thing. When it comes to the same culprits over and over again, you can't then say, "Oh, it's just, you know, you're going to get some, you won't get some," because if there's a pattern there, then, you know, there needs to be something looked at, mate, with that, because it's totally ridiculous.
It goes back to Conor. This is the same lad who was either refereeing or on VAR when McAllister got kicked by Doku. Both went in high, apparently, there somehow. McAllister's chest went in high with Doku's foot. Then we had Martin Odegaard going Harlem Globetrotters, trying to say it was a natural movement, trying to move away from the ball when he was literally positioning the ball away from the player. You know, like you say, we have to be careful with our words here, but it's not great when we're going into this game, and I'm so confident we're going to see a Michael Oliver situation that shafts us, and it does. But you got to get back to what Chris said as well. We're not trying to say this screwed us out of a result, but I'm just saying I'm not surprised it's happened with him on VAR.
Yeah, like you said, like it's become a running theme now, and it's weird because like a year or two ago we would have said Michael Oliver is by far the best referee in the country, and now he's just, again, I'm not going to make any claims against him, but again, in particular, Man City, like, just I don't understand it. Like, it's just the standard has fallen so low, and yeah, it's just I don't know what the answer is, because like every week we just talk about referees, and I'm sick of it. But yeah, to go back to your point, obviously we should have lost the game. Like, we did not deserve anything. But then again, momentum switches and stuff. Like when you have a soft penalty, in my opinion, I think it probably was a penalty, but it was a little bit soft, and like the VAR was taking the piss, and then to have the goal disallowed as well, like those, it's hard to come back from 2 big things like that as well in terms of momentum. So look, we fully deserve to lose the game, but it doesn't exactly help when this is happening either, does it?
Here's what gets me, Connor. Why didn't he send the ref to the monitor and say, do you think he was interfering with play? I would have at least been able to live with 2 people haven't had a look at it. But the fact that Oliver just made this factual decision on a very non-factual situation really rubbed me up the wrong way.
Yeah, like if it's deemed to be clear and obvious or whatever the wording is, like I don't know what the exact wording and what they can and can't control, but they do seem to make it up week on week. So surely he could go over, have a look at it, have some common sense like the rest of us, and see that Robertson, yes, he did duck down, but like the ball wasn't coming to him anyway. Like, that was just to 100% to make sure he's nowhere near the line of sight and stuff. So yeah, like you said, like I'm sure if he did go over, he would have had the same conclusion that the rest of us with eyes came to and seen that it should have been a goal standing. But again, they just make it up week by week, and there's no consistency whatsoever with it.
Dermot Gallagher was trying to say something along the lines of, it's a factual decision, so there's no room for the referee to look at it one way or the other because he's offside. It's a factual offside. And then also went on to say it's a grey area in the law. I mean...
So basically he's just like... He's just said that it's all
what gets me, Chris, is Dermot Gallagher was on there, and the audience aren't getting... they aren't getting a fair take. They're getting somebody who was a former referee who doesn't want to go against former referees, going on there every week and backing up referees' decisions, not giving them a fair reflection or an unbiased opinion. He's going on there to back up his former. That's what it does. What's the point of the segment other than the gaslight fans have?
It's a puff piece, basically, and it's... Yeah, I think it's a joke. We saw the Michael Owen and Howard Webb thing. That's just a ridiculous show. That it's basically an enhanced production version of Ref Watch. But like for me, it would actually, I'd have so much more respect for Dermot Gallagher and people like it. They said, actually, this was a mistake. We do make mistakes, and this is an area of the law that needs sorting out. That would, I think, don't know if you agree with me, but I think I would have so much more respect for people if they actually came out and owned their mistakes and said, look, sorry, I made this error. We will try and atone it next time.
Yeah, of course. But they don't. And that's the problem. There's no accountability. So look, let's move on from that incident. Let's talk about something not really any more joyous, Conor, but Ibrahim KONATE and his performance, to use the term very loosely, against Manchester City. Starts off with the incident that leads to the penalty, I guess. Conor Bradley up against Doku. He manages to get goal side of him, puts himself between Doku and the ball, jockeying it to let it go out. Probably not going out, so KONATE then comes across to clear up the situation, and instead of putting it out for a corner or putting it anywhere else, he kicks it off the knees of Doku or Bradley, and that then leads to the penalty incident. And that, Conor, is just the start of KONATE's nightmare.
Yeah, like that's bad enough in itself, and then you see him like being far too easily beaten for the header by Haaland. Like it seems to be a running theme with him. He just likes to wrestle with a player more than actually focus on the ball and actually try to get the ball out. And then even the Doku one, like fair enough, it's a fantastic finish, but like he should be closing them down better as well. And it was just a poor performance all around. And he wasn't the only one, to be fair, who was terrible yesterday. But it is a running theme with him this season that he just looks disinterested. He looks lazy. He looks lethargic. I don't know what the word is, but he's just not himself. And like having no options to even come in to replace him, I think is a massive issue, because like Gomez comes on, he does barely anything either, and we can't rely on him to be fit either. So what the solution is with KONATE, I don't know, but he really just is absolutely horrendous this season so far, and that was shown again last night.
Chris, the Haaland goal, what really wound me up about that was, as Conor says, I could see him grabbing Haaland's arm and wrestling, but he almost underjumps the ball. That should have been a pretty straightforward clearance. He was ahead of Haaland. He was able to get to the ball before Haaland and still somehow found a way to let Haaland score. And look, a little bit fortunate as well, the way the ball went in. But, you know, I asked this question, Chris, last night in the watch along. Flip that and Virgil standing in KONATE's position. That goal doesn't happen, does it?
Well, the one thing I'll say about KONATE is, and he's been consistent about it throughout the whole of his Liverpool career, is that he heads the ball the way it's coming. He didn't do it then. He headed it straight. He's tried to sort of do this weird back flick thing. When you've got Erling Haaland around, don't take risks. I think that's a pretty basic thing to acknowledge. That was just, yeah, it was really poor from KONATE. But that for me was not the thing that really annoyed me yesterday. Man City clearly did a job on us with him, because they recognize that he is nowhere near as good on the ball as Van Dijk. Like there's not even a stratosphere in which he's within it with Virgil. And we didn't, between him and between the rest of the team, we didn't recognize that at all. Maybe until half time, and then we went back to sort of playing with him. He takes so long on the ball. Defensively, I worry about him. Even sometimes with his pace, I worry about him, because I felt like Haaland got the better of him a lot yesterday. I do. I don't think he's been that good in the last two games either. I know we've seen improvements, but yeah, I worry about him and his consistency.
And then one thing that really frustrates me, Conor, about our defending, and you can put this right across the back line, is why are we lacking so much aggression? I mean, we've seen against Real Madrid at home, albeit everything was as you'd want it to be as a fan. The effort was there, the intensity was there, the crowd fed off the players fed off the crowd, and we were snapping into challenges, we were harassing, we were closing down. And then we got to Man City and we looked like we just met each other again. So why are we lacking aggression in some of these games?
It is crazy, because like the obvious answer would be tiredness, but they had 5 days in between to rest for this. Like there's no way that the same 11 players shouldn't be back to full fitness after 5 days rest. Like it's just, there's no obvious reason for it. Like maybe the crowd as well at Anfield obviously helped against Madrid, but like you said, to go from basically 100 back to 0 in the space of a week is just, there's no explanation for it. And like you said, we've just lacked aggression, lacked intensity, any kind of energy. Like the whole team just looked slow and lethargic. Like even some of the forwards, you see them making runs and they just don't look themselves at all. I don't know what it was, but yeah, just the whole team looked disjointed and slow, and yeah, it just wasn't a good watch at all.
And yourself, Chris, how did you try to, I guess, stitch together in your mind that drop off in intensity from what we'd seen on Tuesday versus Sunday?
I think it's like a whole narrative really for this season. I take you back to Ipswich last season, where Kwanzaa was actually taken off at halftime for not winning enough duels. It's a shame. I mean, now you'd be taking all 11 players off for not winning enough duels. It seems to be like the focus and intensity on being aggressive 1v1 is just totally gone. Like I thought midfield wise, really poor yesterday. The three of them. I think it's probably the worst game Gravenberch has had for Liverpool since Slot's come in. He was totally turned over consistently. Szoboszlai, although he and McAllister did try, I just felt they were totally overrun by City. We were just outclassed as well. I will say that in tactically, physically in every department, and that
Certainly in possession, they were far
worrying.
better with the ball.
It's worrying. It's worrying because like as soon as we had the ball and we gave it to KONATE, they were immediately able to come and swarm forward and win the ball back high up. It was simple, but they totally battered us.
So I want to move on to the manager now, gents, because I want to ask where we're at now with the manager. And I said to you guys coming into this week that I didn't want to, if we lost 2 of the 3 games, I was going to be Arna out. I also said after Villa, I'd seen enough. I'd seen a reaction. That was backed up against Madrid. But we ran a couple of polls last night, Chris, during the game, and then I did a stream a few hours later. So I ran the same poll twice and absolutely, astonishingly, got the same result to the percentage twice. We said, I am Arna in or Arna out. So each person voted. 55% both times said out. Now, I do take into account that that's probably tilted because there are opposition fans in the chat and stuff like that. But even if it's a coin flip conversation at this point, or even if there's 40% of Liverpool fans, that's dangerous territory. And a stat came up that was an extremely damning stat. You probably know where I'm going with this one. That since we were defeated on penalties by Paris Saint-Germain in last season's Champions League, we have lost, now not lost or drawn, lost on its own 40% of the games of football that we have played between then and now. That's a damning statistic, Chris, for any Liverpool coach.
Yeah, 100%. You know, proof is in the pudding. I can understand totally why fans would have this reaction. Performances just haven't quite been there this season, haven't been good enough. I still think the Madrid and the Villa performances have given me enough to say, okay, he can turn it round. City away, even when you're playing really, really well, is a hard game. But yeah, I can see why people are starting to turn when you see performances like that. I can totally get it. I personally am very much still in. And I said it, I firmly back him. He's won us the Premier League. But I can totally get why someone with slightly less patience than me would be out. Yeah.
I'm hanging on with fingernails at this point, and I'm in. I'm on it in, Connor. But I wonder, like, the only thing that was really different is we didn't have the home comforts yesterday, so we didn't have the fans behind the team at the Etihad. But for such a dramatic drop off, it is concerning because it's the very same 11 for Tuesday and Sunday, and night and day as we've said. So where are you at with Arna, and where's your patience?
Yeah, I think the more I've thought about this and the more time's gone on, I think I'm at the point where, like, I think I'm going to give him the season regardless. I don't think I'm going to be calling for his head anytime this season. But I think by the time we get to like March or April, we probably should know whether we're starting to click or starting to. I feel like at that point you should have an indication of like how next season's going to go. Like if the team actually is playing well, you can conclude that right, we probably will play well next year. And I think the next 5 games in particular as well will show us a lot. So like we have Forest at home, West Ham away, Sunderland home, Leeds away, and Brighton at home. We have 2 Champions League games in between, but those 5 league games, I think like if we can get back to some normality in those 5 games and win 4 of them, draw another one, maybe if we get 12 or 13 points from that, I think a lot of people will start to settle down again, and we'll start to see Liverpool actually settle in and start playing decent football and getting a few wins. But like if we get through those 5 games with 2 or 3 losses or a few draws, then maybe I'm saying something different and saying I want the manager out. But at this current moment, I think I'm happy to let him see out the season at least and see where we are come May next year.
I'm like Connor. I thought about this and I've kind of swung both ways on it, but I've thought about it ultimately, and I think my tipping point is going to be when I think the players have stopped listening. Because as fans, we'll all have our own tolerance levels, but if you don't think that the words of the manager are resonating with the players or they're believing in what the manager's saying, and we're starting to see that on the pitch, Chris, for me, and I don't know when that will be, but that's probably going to be my tipping point if it comes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you saw it with Rodgers even towards the end of his tenure, like people were just sort of tired of him. And that happened. That seems like a long time ago now, and it is, but yeah, it's totally obvious. You see it with Ange. I thought they totally down tools and didn't believe in him, towards the end of his tenure, especially in the league. Yeah, to be honest, as I said, the Villa and the Madrid games said to me, okay, right, they still believe in this coach and we still have enough there to cling on to. But without those 2 games, if we didn't win those 2 games, I don't know where my patience levels would be at, because like there wouldn't have been enough there to cling on to. But that's a hypothetical situation. Yeah, there's still enough there for me.
So if I was to say to you, Connor, one answer, it's more the players or it's more the manager. That's the problem. You have to pick one side of this. Now, of course, there's a grey area, but you're not getting a grey area here. So one way or the other. The players are causing the issues or the manager and his tactics are causing the issues. What's the problem?
I think, obviously, it is a mixture, but I will give you an answer on either side. I think it is the manager ultimately, because like it's not a coincidence that every single week 10 or 11 players go out and have a stinker. Like that doesn't happen unless the system's not working. And like it is on the manager to figure out how to get his best players on the pitch in a system that actually works. And we're just not doing that at the minute. Like that's not to say maybe he will figure it out the next few weeks. Maybe it takes another 3 months, 6 months, but he has to get there at some point because it is on him at the minute. Because like I said, it's not a coincidence that every single player seems to be playing bad every week. Like these players are too good for that to happen based on like individuals. So I think it does lie firmly with the manager, in fairness.
So I would be with the manager as well. Before I come to Chris for his answer, I'll explain why. I'm not seeing the same things that impressed me about him previously, Chris. Like he said, he studied up on Manchester City thoroughly. And then we go in a halftime 2-0 down, and I don't see enough changes. I don't see enough tactical tweaks. I don't see him righting the wrongs or outdoing the tactical nous that Guardiola showed by putting Haaland onto KONATE and by flooding the middle of the pitch. And that's the worrying part for me. We're not having the reaction. Like we've started slowly last season and then figured out ways. I'm not seeing him figuring it out as much, and that's what's concerning me.
Yeah, I would say the vast majority is on him, and I be very similar. As I said, that Kwanzaa change last season, we could have made so many of those this season, and we haven't seen that sort of halftime switch. I did think we looked slightly better after halftime. I will say that yesterday, but yeah, it wasn't enough to get that goal and get back into it. So yeah, I think.
Can I read you something, Chris? Because I wanted to. Sorry for cutting across you, but this just popped into my head as we were talking. It's not on the agenda. Connor sent me notes earlier on around Julian Nagelsmann speaking about Florian Wirtz and his struggles, and he said the entire mix is very complex. Each of the 5 attacking players wants to be the star player. This situation doesn't make it easy for Flo because the entire club is not as stable as they were last season. It's another person kind of intimating here about the egos of the attackers. And you know, Diaz kind of almost said something to the same effect in an interview about Bayern and the differences there. And are we ignoring the potential egos in that front line, like as fans, or you know, do you think it's a natural thing that when you've got, like I've said before, the guys, so you've got Wirtz from Leverkusen, Isak from Newcastle, Ekitike from Frankfurt, Salah Liverpool, that they all want to be the White Knight, the hero, like?
Well, quite possibly, but they need to put their egos to one side and learn how to work together. That's how the best teams work. You literally had 3 of the best players of their generation in Messi, Suarez, and Neymar, and they learned how to work together. And look what that created, a complete monster. Even on a slightly smaller scale, even I've got Mane, Salah, and Firmino. You know, Firmino was one of the most sought after players in the world at Hoffenheim. Mane was one of the best players in the Premier League at Southampton, and Salah was Salah. And they worked together. So yeah, I don't think that was the case yesterday, but I think if we're going to get the best out of Wirtz, people are going to have to be unselfish. Are going to have to, you know, sacrifice things for one another. I don't think that's been the main issue this season, but I can see why Nagelsmann thinks it. Yeah.
I mean, we had a couple of examples again yesterday. The Mohamed Salah chance, Connor, that he dinked up over Donnarumma, that just goes wide of the post, could have squared that to Gakpo, and that's been brought up quite a bit. But I honestly think, and I will die on this hill, a forward's only greedy when they miss. That's it.
100%.
If a forward takes on a chance and scores, there's no talk of being greedy. But if a forward takes on a chance and misses and there's a potential square ball, then they're greedy. So it's a fine line, but it seems to be coming down more on the greedy side with Mo lately.
But that's like you said, because he's not scoring. Like every other season, he bags 9 out of 10 chances that we don't call him greedy because he's only missing like 1 every 6 or 7 weeks, but it seems to be every week now. So, like you said, like he's only greedy when he's missing. So, but yeah, go back into like the ego thing. I don't even know if it is like, it's probably not even like an arrogant ego thing, but it's just like you said, all these players are used to being the number one at their own clubs, and I suppose that's part and parcel with the fact that we've gone out and bought huge players this summer in comparison to when we used to like cherry pick kind of up and coming talents rather than finished articles or kind of players at the top of their game. So it is definitely different. It's definitely a different situation than we're used to. But again, like Arne has to figure it out, because ultimately, whether it was him or Richard Hughes who picked these players, he still has these players and has to figure out how to get them to work together, how to get them working in a system that works. And like, you have to just put ego aside and just do what's best for the team.
So I'm going to make a statement that's kind of going to undermine some what I've said before, but I have no doubts that this team is going to be a brilliant team. I only don't know whether Arne is going to last long enough to see it, because the quality of what we've brought in for me, Chris, is too good to fail when you're talking about Isak, Verts, Ekitike. But we do have a problem, and then the problem's names are Federico Chiesa and Rio Engamoa. But it's not problems because of anything that they've done. It's problems because the fans, we have been pitched them as two of the six forwards, but Arne has no intention of using them as two of the six forwards. So he's then talking about his 20-man squad, and he's reducing it himself by another two by not using these guys. Like we said, Rio was going to be the Diaz replacement, but we all know deep down that Rio's not ready yet, and that's perfectly okay. That's fine from not to be ready, but when you're being pitched that he's going to be the other guy and he just isn't being, it's tough, man. It's tough to sit back and watch this, because we had it last year with Elliott and Chiesa as well.
Yeah. If it's on the manager himself if he's refusing to use them. I think Chiesa's shown enough this season. Bournemouth game specifically, Palace game when he came on and scored. Elsewhere as well, that he can be a member of the squad, but clearly the manager doesn't see it. To be honest with Engamoa, that moment of brilliance for me said that he does have the balls to be an incredible player at the Premier League level and could be an option for us now. Unfortunately, I don't think, again, he's being eased in and out, and I think that's completely fair. But when you've been pitched, as you said, to have these six forwards, and only three of them really, or maybe four of them get used. Well, we've had Wirtz as one of those options being pushed forward as a left-sided forward. It's can be frustrating. Yeah.
So, Conor, simple question. What's our identity as a football team now? If you were to try and summarize this in a few sentences, what would you say? Or you're going to be like me and say, I haven't got a clue.
I think the clear identity we've laid out this season is we're going to pass the ball around the back, score 2 goals, then concede a load, win a few games in a row, and then lose a few games in a row. We're going to play 4-4-2, but we're also going to play 3-5-2 and 4-4-2, and we're going to play 4-2-3-1 and 4-3-3 as well. So I don't know what people are on about. Like, there's obviously a clear identity in there.
And we're going to have a little trip to Dubai as well in October for a bit of winter sun.
We're going to get as many holidays in as possible. That's the most important thing.
So I think Conor's boxed off that question there. Identity crisis has been cleared up, but jokes aside and stuff, I really don't have a clue, Chris. And this is what haunts me when I sit up and think about this at night, because if we were trying to play a new system and errors were coming from the system, and you could see that it was clearly down to the players getting to grips with a new system, I think most of us would think, well, it'll click eventually. But I don't have a clue, mate, what we're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think last season I don't think we had the most distinctive identities. I think we were pretty, flexible in what we were doing, and depending on the opponent. But it seemed like there was more of a core there. This year, as Conor has so elaborately put, we seem to be pretty much everywhere. Really, I think it sort of got exposed a lot with our performance yesterday. The sort of first half an hour, we were so focused on Manchester City that we forgot about ourselves. We're a fucking good team. We won the Premier League last year. Like, we can
kind of one of my points, Chris, with Arne. It's like, you spent all these hours working on Man City. How about just making them worry about us? How about worrying about what we do with the fucking ball?
Yeah, we have more than enough to hurt them. I understand, preparing for your opponents, you'd be foolish not to, but yeah, it felt like a little bit too much focus. Maybe the shift, and I thought it had done over the last couple of games, had gone back towards us and the way that we were playing, more intensity, winning individual battles, which I think was the one huge part of our identity last season, was that we were aggressive in the duel and we won our individual battles. But we haven't done that this year, and that's been the biggest miss. That's been the biggest miss for me. It's not formations, it's not even really personnel. It's the real intensity to go and win the ball. That's the big thing.
So, Conor, how do you reckon John W. Henry, Tom Byrne, Mike Gordon, and the rest of the ownership group are feeling right now, having finally broke open the war chest, spent the money? and they're seeing such inconsistencies. Do you think they're genuinely understanding of it because they're looking into the data and seeing things that maybe we don't see, and they think it will eventually come right? When do you think maybe their patience may be tested?
I think they're probably sitting back rubbing their hands at this, to be honest. It's like, right, never have to spend again, lads. It doesn't work. But in all seriousness, I'd say...
We just get a bit of that mouthy Irish idiot, then we'd be all grand, lads.
There's the money, Craig, and we still didn't do anything. But yeah, basically, I'd say I'm sure like they had a contingency plan for like if X, Y, and Z goes wrong, this season is like a transition season, and hopefully it comes together towards the end of this year, and then we push on again next year. But yeah, I'd imagine they'd have to at least understand that it will take time to bet in so many different players. Like I'm sure they would have hoped they would have come together a bit quicker than this, but I just keep going back to what you said as well. Just like these players are too good to fail. Ultimately, like it has to click at some point. But then again, like you said, like how much blame is put on the manager? Could it even be down to? I'm not saying this necessarily, but it could be poor squad planning from the likes of Richard Hughes. Like we kind of replaced the players that left, but didn't really add anything to the squad. We kind of just went one for one and still left the manager with a few less options that we would have hoped. Maybe another DM, another centre back, another winger maybe instead of Chiesa if we managed to move him on this summer. Like so, I don't think it all falls purely on Arne, but I'd imagine the owners will give him at least a season. I can't see him sacking him before then, unless we literally lose the next 15 games. Outside of that, I'd say he gets till summer at least.
And for yourself, Chris, what do you think they're thinking over in Boston at the minute?
They seem like quite patient dudes. To be honest, I don't think they'll be totally worried. Because you know what they're like. They're so data driven, and they'll probably see a lot of the good stuff that has come from this season. And they'll probably be analysing the bad stuff as well. But let's not forget, like there has been bad stuff before. You know, we've had. I remember when we lost 6 home games in a row under Jurgen, and I don't think there was really any worry there because there was enough there to show it. I think it's just like maintaining a bit of a level of consistency going in for the rest of the year. See where we are in January. If there's a chance, you know, I still think we might go out and get someone in January. If there is a chance, we can go on and win the Champions League. If we can progress further on. I don't know whether they will or not, but yeah, I think they're pretty patient. They'll be the sort of people who won't make a decision without thinking about it.
The thing that's kind of concerning me about it is I'm wondering, there's too much talk now about egos and greed. And I'm wondering, was there enough research into the personality traits of the players that were coming in? Did they do that? What is the man like? You know, apart from the footballer, what is the man like? What are they egocentric? Are they egocentric? Are they calm, relaxed dudes? Because I'd hate to think, Connor, that there was egos in the dressing room. I really would like to think that these guys recognize that as a group together, all pulling in the same direction, we can achieve far more. Surely the ones who've been there from Jurgen's time anyway would know this.
Yeah, like Jurgen had a big like no dickheads policy, didn't he? Like that was kind of famous for that. Like he'd look into the player, like, and even like most of our players, they all come from like poor backgrounds, all have these like really inspiring stories and stuff. And I can't imagine the club would have went away from that, in fairness. And even the players that come in, like Wirtz seems very chill guy. Isak gives a very calm demeanor about him as well. Like so, I think like even the ego thing is a little bit like. I think like every player at that level is going to have an ego. I don't think you get to that level without a little bit of an ego and a little bit of arrogance or whatever you want to call it, just pure self-confidence. So I don't know like if it is an issue or not, but I'm sure the club would have done their research on the individual players. But then again, like I said, we've never been in a position where we brought in so many superstars in one window, or we've never really had a squad that's been this good on paper, to be fair. So it's new challenges for the club, and I'm sure we will figure it out eventually. But yeah, definitely a new situation to be in.
So, Chris, looking towards the future, what's realistic for the Reds for the rest of this season? I mean, we're not talking a league title race at this point, surely. Manchester City earned the right yesterday to talk about a league title race with Arsenal. For us, for me, mate, you know, ensuring Champions League qualifications got to be an absolute bare minimum. But for you, what do you think is realistic? You touched on the Champions League a moment ago, and I agree. If we can click at the right time, PSG showed us last year that could be possible. So what's realistic?
Yeah, I still think there's a huge chance. I think we're probably in the top 4-5 teams in the Champions League. So we get a decent draw, and there's no reason why we can't go on and do something in Budapest. I think like now, if potentially we are out of the league title race, I mean, who knows, if we go and win 15 games in a row, we might not be, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I'd love to see us give the FA Cup a go, man. Like it's frustrating when sometimes we've thrown it away, and I understand it's not as important, but it gives an amazing day out. It was one of the best days ever when we beat West Ham on that 2006 final. I remember that because it was my 4th birthday party. I remember that final. It was one of the genuinely one of my first ever memories, and I'd love to see us do that. And I still think it's possible. We can't forget we have one of the best teams in the country right now. So why can't we go out and try and do that? But I think, as you said, Champions League qualification, an absolute minimum, and go fucking win the Champions League itself.
So we could have done that with the League Cup. This is kind of what wound me up. You win that game, you're in the quarter-final. You're 2 games away from a trip to Wembley, and a boost for the fans and a boost for the players, maybe a bit of silverware. So that was one of the reasons I was wound up by that. I agree with what you said, Chris. I think, Champions League qualification's got to be a bare minimum. I always get nervous, though, Conor, when people say, well, we've got to just focus and win the Champions League. It's not an easy thing to do, even if everything is going right and the players are all amazing. You're 1 red card or a dodgy decision away or a bad 15 minutes in a knockout game away from everything going tits up. So, yeah, what's realistic for you for the remainder of the campaign?
Yeah, I was about to make that exact point. Like, you can be as good as you want, but yeah, like you said, like 20 minutes of madness in a game, and that's the whole thing over. So you can't really rely on that. But I think I still fully expect us to come 3rd in the league at least. I think we will just pick up a lot of results. We will just secure Champions League fairly early, and then if we're still in the Champions League, then we can afford to rest players in the league a little bit and go full tilt on that. But we are good enough on our day to beat any team. But yeah, it's the consistency. So the league probably is gone in that regard. Never say never, but I'm saying never at this point. FA Cup would be nice, of course, yeah, if we could focus on that. But again, one bad decision and we're out of that as well. So yeah, I think definitely more of a chance to win the Champions League at this point than the league. But I don't think we're going to miss out on Champions League next season. I can't see a world where we finish outside the top 5. It's just, I think, again, we're too good for that. I think we will just, I predict 3rd is what I'd say. So I'll go 3rd and one of the cups, Champions League or FA Cup, we'll win one of them.
So I'm going to make a prediction, Chris, before we finish up. I'm going to say that the little centre-back transfer merry-go-round goes like this. Upamecano goes to Real Madrid, Ibrahim Konate goes to Bayern Munich, and we get Mark Gay. That's my best guess at how this ends up by next summer for the centre-back situation that we currently have. Would you agree or disagree?
Konate to Bayern Munich. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, I think that I can see that happening. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's pretty much a direct replacement, isn't it? Those two played together at Leipzig as well. Maybe Real Madrid might want to reunite them and bring them together, but I don't think they need to be honest with you. I think that's logically the way it surely has to go, right? Unless PSG randomly come in and they want Upamecano or Konate, but I don't really see that.
Well, it's either that, Conor, or Konate goes to Madrid, Upamecano stays at Bayern Munich. I still think it ends up with us losing Konate and Mark Gay coming in. But, if you're Real Madrid right now as well, you're sitting there looking at, you've got Upamecano.
Yeah.
And you
can't say that. Maguire did score a winner against us. We can't banter him.
He did. I was there, as you were. in real life. So, yeah, for me, Conor, they're the variables. But what do you think? How do you think it pans out with the centre-backs?
Yeah, I'd imagine what you said is probably correct. Konate to Bayern Munich, there was some links the other day, so it would make sense. And I don't know if Madrid would want both or if they'd even want Konate at this point, the way he's playing. Maybe they do. Maybe they put this whole thing down to the fact that he is holding back slightly because he knows that move is coming or whatever. But yeah, at this point, I'd rather him stay ultimately, but I can't be arsed anymore. I'm just sick of it. He's just been so poor. If he leaves, fair enough. I think the important thing for me is just to make sure we get Mark Gahey in the door, and then we can get someone else in as well, just as another option, because Joe Gomez is probably going to leave as well. So, yeah, at this point, I don't really care, in all honesty. Get Gahey in, and after that, we'll figure it out.
I think Jamie Carragher was about right when he said, I'd like him to stay, but if he doesn't, Liverpool will sign somebody else. Liverpool won't fall apart if Konate leaves. He's not Van Dijk. He's a good centre-back who you hope will sign, but if he doesn't sign, Liverpool will be fine. I think I'm okay with that, Chris.
Spot on. Exactly that. It's like I said last week, he hasn't really got that stature where you worry if he leaves. It was a bit like when Emre Can left. It'd be all right if he signed. I wouldn't mind it. But if he leaves, fair play, carry on. You know, we will move on and we'll get someone better in. Yeah, I think it's basically that. It's a meh either way, which is probably isn't great for content, but it is a meh.
It is a meh. I mean, sometimes life just gives you a meh, and you got to say meh. So meh. Right, that's pretty much where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you think this has been a good podcast, hit that like button. If you think it's been meh, well, you know what to do. Do nothing.
If you think it was bad, still hit the like button. Why not?
Yeah, just keep hitting the like button over and over again. That'd be much appreciated. Look, we are very grateful for all of your support as always. Podcast continues to grow, numbers continue to rise, and we're very grateful for your listenership. We'll be back at some point over the next 2 weeks. We don't exactly know when, because it's not like we've got a game to work around. But whatever you need to do to get you through this international break, we appreciate you and hope you have a good one. Chris, thank you very much, my man, for joining us again. Connor, thank you as well for giving us some of your time. And of course, you guys for listening and watching. We appreciate it. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.